Hello and welcome to Fantasy Football by Ben. Today I'll be talking about my Week 8 rankings with my wide receivers and tight ends. So, number 1, for wide receivers, I'll start off with wide receivers. I'll do 1 through 30, tight ends 1 through 15. For wide receivers, number 1, Davante Adams versus the Vikings. Davante Adams had a really great Week 1 against the Vikings, and last week he played really well. 13 for 196 and 2 touchdowns. Vikings are giving up the third most yards and points in fantasy to opposing wide receivers. Davante Adams is bound to have a big game. I'm excited for this week for Davante. Number 2, Tyreek Hill versus the Jets. Tyreek Hill has had a touchdown in every single game this year except for one. I think that this is going to be a good game for Tyreek Hill. I think they'll get up, so then he'll score quick. And then I think this is going to be a good week for Tyreek Hill. Number 3, DK Metcalf versus the 49ers. 49ers have not been very good in their secondary, but they've been solid. But DK Metcalf is not going to have back-to-back bad weeks. That's just not who DK Metcalf is. I have DK Metcalf at 3 because he has got a huge upside to get 2 touchdowns or even more. I mean, we saw Tyler Lockett do last week, and we don't know what is in store for DK. Number 4, Calvin Ridley versus the Panthers. Panthers have actually been very good against wide receivers this year, but Calvin Ridley is on a whole new level from last year, and so Calvin Ridley's a bound top 5 play almost every week. So I have my number 4 this week. Number 5, A.J. Brown versus the Bengals. The Bengals are a pretty good defense, but they gave up a lot of fantasy points to wide receivers last week and tight ends last week. A.J. Brown is by far the best offensive threat that the Tennessee Titans have on the outside receiving-wise, and I think it's really going to show this week, and I expect a big week out of A.J. Brown. Number 6, I have Julio Jones versus the Panthers. Julio Jones is coming off of back-to-back really good weeks, really strong weeks, and so Julio Jones is a solid play no matter who they play, and it's the same thing with Calvin Ridley. They're just throwing the ball so much that it makes sense that you start both of them. At number 7, I have Adam Thielen versus the Packers. Adam Thielen had 2 touchdowns week 1 against the Packers. They were kind of garbage time touchdowns, but nonetheless touchdowns. And if the Packers are up a lot again, I could see Adam Thielen having another big game. Because if the Packers lay off, I think that Adam Thielen is definitely their guy that they go to. Number 8, I have Allen Robinson against the Saints. The Saints' outside corners, Marshawn Lattimore and Janoris Jenkins, have not been that great this year. Especially Marshawn Lattimore. Marshawn Lattimore will most likely be covering Allen Robinson, and Allen Robinson is a beast. So, Allen Robinson has a very good matchup this week if he plays. If he clears the concussion protocol, Allen Robinson is my number 8 wide receiver this week. He's coming off a bad game, but it really wasn't horrible or anything. He just didn't score a touchdown, and he had 70 receiving yards. But they were really getting him the ball in the last drive, and then he got hurt. So, if he passes the concussion protocol and he plays, Allen Robinson is in your lineup. Very great play this week. Number 9, I have Tyler Lockett against the 49ers. Tyler Lockett's coming off of a 15 catches for 200 yards and 3 touchdown game. If Tyler Lockett wasn't in my top 10, I'm sure a lot of people would have been mad. Tyler Lockett's very good. He's coming off of a very good game. But Tyler Lockett, I have him ranked lower than DK because I think Wilson's going to try to get DK involved this game more than Lockett. So I have DK at 3 and Lockett at 9. Number 10, I have Stefon Diggs versus the Patriots. The reason why he's not in the top 7 or 8 is because he's going to be covered by Stephon Gilmore. Stephon Gilmore is a very good corner. And the reason why he's in the top 10 is because Stefon Diggs will most likely have like a breakaway play or maybe two in the game, and that could be a potential difference between a 6-point game to a 15-point game. And so I think he's got the high upside. I think he's got good potential this week. Number 11, I have Kenny Golladay versus the Colts. Kenny Golladay, I think they're going to be behind that game, so I think they're going to be throwing a lot. And Kenny Golladay looked really great last week. All of his catches last week were all contested, and he pulled down 6 balls for 104 yards. Like, he looked good last week, and I expect pretty much the same this week. Number 12, I have DJ Moore versus the Falcons. DJ Moore, the last 3 weeks, has had 93 yards receiving every single game. And the first time they played the Falcons this year, DJ Moore had 93 yards and a touchdown. That was 3 weeks ago. I expect very similar stats from DJ Moore, if not better. He's getting more involved in that offense. Carolina's offense has looked better every week. DJ Moore is going to be a good play this week. I have DJ Moore at 12. Number 13, I have Keenan Allen versus the Broncos. The Broncos secondary has not been good, and Keenan Allen has been really good. He's getting 35% of the Chargers' air yards. 35%. Also, he's getting over 30% of their target share. Keenan Allen is definitely Justin Herbert's go-to guy when he needs like a first down or anything. He looks first for Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen, I could probably have him better than 13, but I like all the guys I have out of him. So, and I think they're all going to have big weeks out of him. So, I have Keenan Allen at 13. Number 14, I have Robby Anderson against the Falcons. Robby Anderson, the first time they played the Falcons, had 112 receiving yards. I'm pretty sure he's going to do that again, if not better. Like I said, their offense is getting better. They're getting DJ Moore more involved, and Robby Anderson is steadily just staying the same, doing consistent work. Looks great out there. I like Robby Anderson this week against the Falcons defense that has not been good. Number 15, I have Mike Evans against the Giants. He's most likely going to be covered by James Bradberry, and that's probably why I have him down further. But ever since every week that Chris Godwin has not played, Mike Evans has blown up for a big week. And it was like the same thing last year. When Chris Godwin didn't have a big week, Mike Evans did. When Chris Godwin had a big week, Mike Evans didn't. And this week, Chris Godwin will not be playing. I expect a big week out of Mike Evans, even if he is being covered by a top 10 corner. I expect a big week out of Mike Evans this week. Moving on to my number 16 wide receiver, Tyler Boyd versus the Titans. Titans have not been able to cover slot wide receivers this year, and Tyler Boyd plays at least 80% of the snaps that he plays from the slot. When they run 2 wide receiver sets, Tyler Boyd's out there, but in the exception to that, they most time run 3 wide receiver sets, and Tyler Boyd's out there in the slot. Titans give up a lot of fantasy points from the slot. Tyler Boyd's leading all receivers from the slot this year, and last week he had 11 catches for 101 yards and a touchdown. I am expecting very similar numbers again this week. Number 17, I have Justin Jefferson versus the Packers. Like I said about Adam Thielen, if the Packers take a big lead in this game, I expect the Vikings to throw the ball, and the Packers tend to lay off of wide receivers for whatever reason. I expect Justin Jefferson to have a pretty big week if the Packers take a big lead. Number 18, I have Amari Cooper versus the Eagles. Most likely, Amari Cooper this week will be covered by Darius Slay, which I'm not super scared of Darius Slay, and their pass defense hasn't been amazing or anything, but Amari Cooper is pretty much a must-start automatically in your lineup, and so I'm playing him this week against the Eagles, even if Darius Slay is covering him. At number 19, I have Cooper Kupp versus the Dolphins. Dolphins' slot corner is actually really bad, and Cooper Kupp is pretty much going to have probably a pretty big game if this game isn't like super far apart where the Rams are killing them, so then they run the ball. I think Cooper Kupp could have a big day. Number 20, I have his teammate, Robert Woods, versus the Dolphins. Dolphins' outside corners are better than their slot corner, but their outside corners aren't like amazing or anything. I mean, Xavier Howard's good, and so is Byron Jones, but they're not like amazing or anything. And Robert Woods most of the time gets his work from behind the line of scrimmage, so it's going to be interesting to see how they use him. And he fumbled last week, and he didn't look too good, but the Rams' offense looked fine, even without Woods or Kupp doing anything, really. In my number 21 spot, I have Travis Fulgham versus the Cowboys. I think that he's really stepped up his role in that offense, and even last week he was doing really good. He had the most targets on the team at 11, caught 5 of them for 73 yards. But other than that, he had a pretty solid week. I mean, that's a solid points. And before that, he's been doing really well. And since he's been like their starter and whatever, he's been their number one receiver. And I like his matchup against the Cowboys this week, who Terry McLaurin had 7 for 90 and a touchdown last week again. So I like his matchup with Travis Fulgham. Number 22, I have Brandon Aiyuk versus the Seahawks. Seahawks give up the most fantasy points to outside wide receivers this year. And Brandon Ayuk's going to be playing without Deebo Samuel. And that's a huge role step up for Brandon Aiyuk. And I really like him against the Seahawks this week. I have him at number 22. Number 23, I have T. Higgins versus the Titans. T. Higgins is definitely the most... He doesn't get a lot of targets. Like, he's not a huge target guy. But with the targets that he gets, he produces. And he's a big touchdown guy. And so T. Higgins is definitely like a top 30 wide receiver this week. And the Titans defense that just is awful against the pass. I think that T. Higgins is going to have a big week. At number 24, coming in, I have A.J. Green against Titans. A.J. Green has been playing very well the last 2 weeks. And in my bold prediction, I have A.J. Green finishing in the top 10 wide receiver this week. And I think it could happen if he does catch a touchdown and get to over 100 receiving yards. He hasn't done that this year yet, but I think he will this week. So I have him at 24. I have 25, I have Jamison Crowder versus the Chiefs. The Chiefs have been very good against outside receivers this year, and Jamison Crowder is a little banged up still. Don't know if he's going to play yet. If he does play, I like him at 25. I like him against the Chiefs defense, but Chiefs defense has been very good, and if he scores under his projection, I wouldn't be surprised, but I still think he's a good play if you have him. Number 26, I have CeeDee Lamb versus the Eagles. Eagles haven't been great against the slot, and CeeDee Lamb runs almost all of his routes out of the slot. And so I like CeeDee Lamb this week against the Eagles. I think it's a good play, especially when Slay's covering Amari Cooper. CeeDee Lamb is coming off of a really bad week last week, but I think he'll get a bounce-back week, and I think CeeDee Lamb will have a good week. Number 27, I have TreQuan Smith versus the Bears. No Michael Thomas, no Emmanuel Sanders. That's not good for the Saints or Drew Brees, but TreQuan Smith, it's good for him because he gets wide receiver 1 looks. Not saying he's going to do anything with them. He'll probably have Fuller on him or Johnson, which are both very good. TreQuan Smith, though, I think will have a good week. I like TreQuan Smith this week. At number 28, I have Diontae Johnson versus the Ravens. Ravens have tough outside corners. Diontae Johnson's coming off a big week. I don't know if he's 100% healthy or if he's going to play right away, but I do like him this week. I have him as a low-end wide receiver 2, kind of high-end flex. I like Diontae Johnson's matchup, though, this week. But I would like it better if it wasn't against the Ravens, so we'll see how that goes. At number 29, I have Jarvis Landry versus the Raiders. The Raiders have been horrible against wide receivers this year, and Jarvis Landry will be playing without Odell Beckham, which 2 years ago before they got Odell, Jarvis Landry had over 1,100 receiving yards. Jarvis Landry looked good. And then when Odell got there, then they kind of split off and they are doing their own thing. But we'll see how Jarvis Landry does when he's being covered by their top corner, so we'll see. At number 30, I have DeVante Parker versus the Rams. He'll most likely be shadowed by Jalen Ramsey. And I don't love that matchup or anything, so that's why he's down at 30. But most of the time I would have him ranked better than what he is right now. But since he's going to be covered by Jalen Ramsey, I'm going to have him ranked as 30. And he's coming off of an injury. Don't know how good he's going to be with Tua. We'll see how things go this week with DeVante Parker. All right, let's get into these tight ends. Number 1 out of 15 for my tight ends, Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is going up against the Jets. Travis Kelce has been the most consistent tight end. He is coming off of a game where it's snowing, and they didn't really throw the ball a whole lot. And he still had a pretty good game. I mean, obviously not what you're expecting out of Travis Kelce, but I mean, for what the weather was like, Travis Kelce had a pretty good game. Number 2, I have George Kittle versus the Seahawks. Seahawks are really good against tight ends, but I don't know how they're going to be able to stop George Kittle this week, and I'm feeling very confident with putting George Kittle in my lineup. Number 3, I have Darren Waller versus the Browns. The Browns aren't going to be able to stop Darren Waller, just like not many teams can stop Darren Waller. And that is definitely Derek Carr's favorite target, Darren Waller. And so I like Darren Waller this week against the Browns. The Browns haven't been that great against tight ends this year. I like Darren Waller. Number 4, I have Mark Andrews versus the Steelers. This one's interesting because the Steelers are going to be without Devin Bush. And so the Steelers' best cover linebacker is out, which is Devin Bush. And so I wonder how they're going to do against Mark Andrews. I expect they're going to defend him fairly well because Mark Andrews is definitely Lamar's favorite target. And this week going in, he's going to have to be Lamar's favorite target because I don't know how many targets Marquise Brown's going to get. And I would assume that Mark Andrews will get the red zone targets like he does almost every game. And so that's where I have Mark Andrews ranked 4 because he's got a high upside, high ceiling because of his touchdowns. I like Mark Andrews against the Steelers, even though it's a tough defense. Number 5, I have Jonnu Smith versus the Bengals. The Bengals just gave up 3 touchdowns to the Cleveland Browns tight ends last week. 2 to Harrison Bryant, 1 to Njoku. I really like Jonnu Smith this week against the Bengals, and that's why I'm at tight end 5. I like Jonnu Smith. My number 6 tight end this week, Rob Gronkowski versus the Giants. Rob Gronkowski is coming off of back-to-back games with a touchdown. He's looked really good the last couple games, and I really like him this week against the Giants. Even if I think they take the lead, which I think they will, and if they keep the lead, which I think they will, I think Rob Gronkowski is a good play this week because you do have a chance of him catching a touchdown or 2. He's done the last couple weeks. He's looked good. I like him at number 6. Number 7, Dalton Schultz versus the Eagles. Eagles have been horrible against tight ends this year. Absolutely horrible. Well, Dalton Schultz, in my bold prediction, I had him finishing as a top 5 tight end. I'm sticking to it. I like Dalton Schultz this week. If you want to hear my full explanation on why I have Dalton Schultz at 7, you can listen to my bold predictions for Week 8 2 days ago. Number 8, I have Hunter Henry versus the Broncos. The Broncos haven't been that great against tight ends this year, and Hunter Henry's been very consistent, and so I like Hunter Henry. He got hurt in the last game, but I'm sure he's fine, and I like Hunter Henry this week against the Broncos. I have him at number 8. Number 9, I have Noah Fant versus the Chargers, so on the opposite side of Hunter Henry. Chargers have also not been that great against tight ends this year, and Noah Fant has been really good. Noah Fant, when he plays and he's fully healthy, has been really, really good. Last week, the same thing with how Travis Kelce said it was snowing. Same thing happened with Noah Fant. Third game is going to be snowy again, I think. And so I like Noah Fant this week still, even if it does snow. And I like Noah Fant every week that he plays. I have him at 9. Number 10, Jimmy Graham's going up against the Saints, who are the 32nd worst against tight ends, which means that they're worse against tight ends. Jimmy Graham is looking like he's going to be a really good play this week. If you have him, I would play him. I really like the matchup that he's got going against the Saints. And the Saints just have not looked good against opposing tight ends this year. I like Jimmy Graham at number 10. If you have him, I'd play him this week. Number 11, I have Robert Tonyan versus the Vikings. Robert Tonyan last week had a deep catch down the sideline, but outside of that, he didn't really do too much, and so people are dropping Robert Tonyan, including myself. I like Robert Tonyan this week, but with DeVante being back, he's seen a lot less work, but I still think he's got a very high upside, and I think he will be used in the red zone at some point soon. Number 12, TJ Hawkinson versus the Colts. The Colts are top 5 in the league against tight ends, but TJ Hawkinson is a top 12 tight end every week, and even against some of the best defenses against tight ends, I'm still starting him over people like Hayden Hurst, Richard Rodgers, or Mike Gesicki, who are the next 3. I like TJ Hawkinson at number 12 this week. I think he's a good, strong play. I like TJ Hawkinson. Hayden Hurst versus the Panthers. The Panthers have also been top 10 in the league against tight ends. And I don't really like Hayden Hurst this week. He was a good play last week if you played him. But Hayden Hurst this week, I'm not a huge fan of. But if you have him, most likely you're going to play him. He's a part of the Atlanta Falcons offense, which their offense has been doing very well recently. And I like the play of Hayden Hurst every other week, but probably this week. I have Richard Rodgers at number 14. I like Richard Rodgers this week against the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys have not been able to stop tight ends very well. And Richard Rodgers is coming off a very big game. And he was definitely the most explosive part of that offense that Carson Wentz was throwing to. And so I like him this week, and Carson Wentz loves his tight end. So I think Richard Rodgers is a good play this week. Good plug and play if you got some other guys that are lower down, like Eric Ebron. If you want to play Eric Ebron and you want to play Richard Rodgers, it's a good call. Number 15, I have Mike Gesicki versus the Rams. The Rams have been pretty good against tight ends this year, surprisingly. Not surprisingly. But Mike Gesicki is definitely a big play guy. And I like Mike Gesicki this week against the Rams. I think he can break off for a big play, and I think Tua might look for his tight ends, which is a good thing. I really hope that he does, but with Mike Gesicki being with a rookie quarterback, I ranked him a little bit lower than I probably would have, but I think he's a good play this week. Maybe Tua will throw the ball to him more. We'll see. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to hit the thumbs up. It means a lot. Subscribe if you're new. Ring the little bell so that you guys get the notification whenever I post. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.